Today we're talking about that fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran. As I am recording this video, which is Sunday morning here in the Southern Hemisphere, northern Saturday evening, their talks are going on right now. This is the peace agreement talks between Iran, Vance for the US, and Pakistan, the mediator. So let's see what the cards want to reveal about what could be coming up. Is this ceasefire, peace talks stable? We know it's fragile. Expect a ceasefire or a peace agreement with these talks. Or will there be further escalation given the fragility of the current ceasefire? Let's get straight into the card reading today. I am using a combination, or whichever deck I am most guided to for the question: Governance Oracle, Predictions, World Events, and the Forecaster Oracle. So let's get into today's reading. Beginning with the Governance Oracle, let's just take a look at the state of the current ceasefire. We know that Israel is firing on Lebanon. Pakistan would like to include Lebanon as part of the ceasefire agreement. And we know that Iran has reclosed the Strait of Hormuz because they believe that the terms of the ceasefire has been broken with the Israel-Lebanon conflict. So somebody has to be very careful what they say here, and I feel that might be Trump, in order for liberation to prevail here. I also know that during this peace talk, I think Iran is preferring to talk to JD Vance. Okay, so believing that the US terms are not agreeable. And in the reading I done last week, it showed that they were back to back. They were just not agreeing on the terms at all. As of last week's reading, it's a whole nother week. A lot happens in a week with this conflict. So we're looking at an external influence. That would be Pakistan. But there's still uncertainty. So there's a difficult decision. So what we're still seeing here this week, the energy around the ceasefire and the negotiations. The cards are basically saying here with the spread that's on the table. I did ask about the ceasefire, but we have a card here about the signing, which is showing me the peace talks and the negotiations. Very difficult, a lot of uncertainty within these peace talks that are taking place right now. Now, whether it's saying liberation will prevail, looking at the seeds of prosperity, there's still a lot of difficulties in bringing this to the table. There's a lot of strategy involved here. Okay, so while this conflict and the peace talks and negotiations are Middle East and US, it affects all countries. We're all affected here. We're looking at shortages. So this is a concern for everybody around the world. Now, what I'm seeing with the cards is that there's difficulties in trying to bring this negotiation, uncertainty around the agreement or the terms of this negotiation for ceasefire. So these being the top two cards, I feel like there's a lot of, even though we've got the strategic moods and strategies down the bottom, both sides have strategies they're using. But up here, I feel it's just, there's still difficulties on the table. Last week's cards showed that they were just back to back. There was no agreement. And I feel that was to do with Trump and Iran's leadership. They were just not going to agree. There was no way. And now JD Vance is stepping in. So I wonder if this will bring a little bit more negotiation availability here. But I'm still seeing the terms of the agreement. There's still so much uncertainty around this. So let's narrow in a little bit more. I'm going to use the predictions oracle now to see predictively what these talks could mean, the energy moving forward after these negotiations today. But I am feeling that these are very difficult talks. There's difficult decisions to be made, and there's a lot of uncertainty about the terms that they're agreeing to, which makes me feel like they're not going, although there's good intentions, and I feel the external influence to be Pakistan. I feel there's intentions here to try and move strategically through this decision in the hopes of prosperity for all countries involved here. But it just seems to be still, there's too much on the table here. There's too much uncertainty around this, and it's a very, very difficult situation that they're in at the moment. Now, somebody's having to be very controlled in their speech, and I don't know if I mentioned this already, but somebody having to be very controlled in what they're saying, and I feel that is Trump's energy here. Could be anyone, but I'm feeling it's probably more Trump's energy here, having to be very controlled in what he's saying. Maybe he's been told about what he's posting on Truth Social while these talks are going on. He's needing to control the speech here. Maybe he's been told by external influences. Now, this external influence card is multi-countries. You can see a lot of different countries here, and that's why I say that all countries are affected here. But I do always notice when I pull this one, the prominence of the US flag on here. So I have the predictions oracle, and this is just taking a look at what this could mean in the next couple of weeks based on today's negotiations. What can we be looking at? I'm just pulling one more card for the cyber attack, and then I'll run through what these cards mean. And then one more card for resigns, leaves office. Okay, so now I'm just going to run through what could be coming up predictively using the predictions oracle. First of all, we're seeing urgent action is required based on the farming industry. If you take a look at these three cards up the top, what we're seeing here is possible society collapse if urgent action is not taken right now. And it could also be something related to pesticides, because I'm seeing here the spraying of crops in the farmers industry. I'm seeing fruit flies everywhere. So it's urgent to act right now, because not only is there a shortage of fuels, the next thing we might be hearing, and I don't know if it's already happening, is something connected to pesticides within the farming industry affected here, and that will cause a society collapse. So this whole situation already is, because we are facing fuel shortages, diesel shortages, which are required for farmers, but also required for the trucking industry, transportation and shipping. So we're seeing the whole breakdown of society with scarcity. And these top three cards are indicating that. So we really need to urgently act now that they know that. Now, given the two cards that I had to pull extra down the bottom because I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to say, we've got resign or leaves office. Now, at first when I pulled this card, I thought signs. I saw the word signs first of all. Even though this card is saying somebody resigning or leaving office, I feel because of the clarifying card that I've placed on top of it is foreign occupation. Leaving, part of the negotiations or that's got to be acted upon urgently is foreign occupation, leaving the area. So pulling troops out of or away from Iran. Maybe this is part of the deal that they want. But there's going to be some kind of breakthrough based on cyber warfare. So spying, online computer kind of cyber warfare, that's the best way to describe it, because I have cyber attack and we have a breakthrough. So maybe a breakthrough comes in the form of a cyber warfare to help this current situation. So pulling back and just taking a look at these cards overall, I do see also the yes, positive outcome. So hopefully we will hear some positive news out of these peace talks or negotiations. But I feel like if they don't act urgently now, there has to be some give and take here, a little bit of flexibility, because we saw in the last spread that there was difficulties in meeting all of the obligations or the requirements requested by both sides. But I feel like there needs to be a little bit of flexibility, somebody leaving office, but I feel like it's leaving occupation, so occupying those areas. Now let me just tap in to see if it's connected at all to the ships, because I got a breathe and I thought I saw the water card pop out at one stage. I'm just pulling in energies around the straits, so the water energy here. Of course, part of the negotiations is to open the strait and let the ships leave. So let me just pull one more card on what I was picking up there with the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, let's do a full new spread here, because that's probably the most important question here. Despite some of the things that may pass, some of the things that won't pass, the most important thing here is that that strait gets reopened. And I'm going to use the Forecaster Oracle. Let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz being reopened. These cards are saying there is open communication or open dialogue regarding the opening of the Straits of Hormuz. I think it's the main topic of conversation here. So we see escalating tension, advancements, financial abundance, growth and expansion, displacement or crisis, being held accountable, and merging alliances. Now, I wonder here if we're talking about alliances that did not come to the aid of the US and being held accountable. But let's tap in and see if I can put these into a story and see what they're trying to say here. So, most important question is the Strait of Hormuz being opened. We're seeing we're seeing escalating tension here, but they are opening dialogue or communication here. I feel like there's some kind of financial agreement or some kind of trade or agreement here that needs to take place. And it could be financial, for letting ships go through the strait. Okay, to do with displacement, shelterless, crisis. Are we talking about migration? I wonder if this is forming part of the dialogue here, the open communication. Okay, so part of the negotiations from Iran's side may be to do with the crisis there on their soil and the displacement of people, and wanting to hold the forces accountable. So there's a lot of energy here. There's a lot of energy with this conflict, difficulties, as we saw in the first spread, And I think we're seeing some of the difficulties that we're seeing here. So we know what the US is asking for, but do we know what Iran is asking for here? And these cards here are indicating wanting accountability for the crisis and the displacement of people, financial compensation, or attached to the opening of the strait. Maybe there's some kind of advances in something that's also being offered as part of a package. Doesn't mean that it's going to get through. It may be what one person is asking for, but I do feel communication is open, but it's a very, very heated topic right now. So I feel like maybe some things will be agreed upon. I don't think everything is going to be agreed upon here. Do we see the strait being opened with these cards? We are seeing the negotiation, wanting justice, wanting one side to be held accountable. Now this merging forces I'm seeing now as the Pakistan negotiation. So let me just try and tap into this energy. Okay, because I'm seeing merging alliances, joining forces with other countries, sitting on top of escalating conflict, I think it's important. Now, I know they're not going to be able to bow down to the demands that's being asked here, but there seems to be an escalation that's going on, joining forces with other countries. And once we start seeing that, that's when we're talking about World War III. So finally, just one from the Predictions Oracle. Will we see the Strait of Hormuz allowing ships to pass through? We're seeing a signed agreement. We're seeing the situation being overhauled, but we're seeing a battle going on between the US. That's the main battle that we're talking about. I just want to say that I quickly picked up here around which ships are being let through. Accountability or for not coming to the table to assist in opening the strait. Will there be any repercussions here to those countries? And Australia is one of those. So what I'm seeing with these cards is that they have to overhaul their demands in order to get a signature. Now, whether that'll happen on this agreement or whether that'll happen on another one, this is the leadership battle that we're seeing here, the open dialogue of communication, head to head, not agreeing. There's too much here that's difficult and challenging and needs to be adjusted or flexible. They need to overhaul demands, perhaps even both sides, in order to get some kind of deal through, because we saw the urgency that's required here. To me, it almost looks like Iran has the upper hand here. Even though we hear Trump saying that Iran has no cards, based on that last spread that came through that we saw, the farming industry and the collapse of society based on shortages of diesel, that is a pretty good card to hold. So in order to get this deal across the line, there needs to be some overhaul of demands. They're not getting through on based on the demands that's going to the table right now. There needs to be some flexibility here. Perhaps even some financial compensation or something indicating something to do with passing through that strait. So I'm going to leave that reading here now. I'm not even sure if I'm going to post this reading, so I won't put too much more time into this one. But thank you for watching.